Now, on to our next panel. This is a great one, talking about adoption, driving a product and usage adoption. We're excited to welcome our very own KGP, or Kristen, and Danielle, Samantha, and Manish, who are going to talk about driving product adoption and at scale. So, KGP, you there?
Hey, I sure am, Dave. How's it
Hey,
going?
hey, it's awesome to see your smiling face. She always brings the energy and the love and the passion. So, looks like you have a great panel there.
We have a great panel and just a quick congratulations, you guys. What a great event. Such amazing speakers, amazing content so far. And I am so excited to introduce the next one. So thank you for having us.
We're excited to hear you.
Cool, you guys. Well, like Dave said, my name is KGP. I'm the Senior Customer Success Manager here at Client Success, and I am the honored host of our next panel called Driving Product Usage and Adoption at Scale. As many of you already know, product adoption is the process by which people learn about your product or app and start using it to accomplish their goals. This is a measure of customer health many organizations place a lot of emphasis on in measuring their effectiveness in guiding a customer's journey. So please join me in warmly welcoming today's panelists and industry experts on the subject. Danielle Geisler is the Senior Customer Success Manager at Splash. She brings over 8 years of experience within the SaaS industry, where she started her career in marketing and transitioned to success, where she now helps marketers reach their goals. Pretty awesome stuff. Welcome. Then we have Samantha David. Samantha is a Senior Customer Success Manager who has driven success within multiple customer segments. And today she's building out the scale segment of customer success for Monday.com. So really exciting. Super pumped to dig in with you about customer adoption at scale. Sam, so thank you so much for being here. And last but not least, my friend Manish Karamchandani is a customer success mentor and CSM for strategic accounts at New Relic, bringing over 20 years of experience of pioneering success strategies at companies like HP, New Relic. Today, he specializes in customer success strategy, product adoption, and value realization. So we've got some pros, you guys. Let's get out our pens and pencils, get ready to ask some questions. But I'm so thrilled to kick off with the first one. And Sam, I would love to direct this question at you just to get us started. So some may say that product adoption is the main leading indicator of success. How do you view these metrics in conjunction with other metrics you're focused on as a CSM?
Yeah, thanks, Kristen. So I agree that product adoption is the main leading indicator of success, but I think there are different ways that we can measure this throughout the life cycle of a customer. Measuring adoption is our North Star as a CSM to better understand the health of a customer. So since my team is currently working with low touch accounts, we're not as tied into their day-to-day, and each CSM is handling 200 or 300 accounts at one time. So this means we need to use data to quickly know which playbook we need to approach customers with, or even if we need to engage at all. A metric that we use to look at this is how many people are active in the user's account, either weekly or monthly. This is quickly proven that to give us an idea if the account is healthy. So if we can see in the past 6 months that there's been a decrease of around 30%, let's say, of active users, we know it's an indicator for us to reach out and engage with the customer. Adoption is also should be heavily measured right after onboarding, because that's when it is most critical. We've also seen that if there is low adoption after this stage, then the customer is more at risk to churn.
Got it. Yeah, great answer. So for anyone in the audience in the very early days of measuring and driving adoption, I know that could be many audience members. Is there anything you can share about when you would engage with an account?
Yeah, when we were building in the initial months of building our scale team, we saw as a team that we wanted to immediately engage with low health or dead accounts. These accounts had around like 20 or 0 to 20% usage for multiple consecutive months. Since one of our main goals is to reduce churn, we wanted to get in touch with these accounts as soon as possible to see if we could save them. We quickly learned as a team that we had better success with reducing churn with accounts that we could determine a slight decrease in usage or that were were on the downturn. So we changed that mindset. Instead of reaching out to those dead accounts, we were reaching out to ones that were slightly decreasing so that we could catch them.
Yeah.
So for example, accounts that maybe had 20% decrease over the course of 3 months at a time, that was our main indicator to reach out and engage.
Awesome. Yeah, it's always so helpful to hear from other CS experts in the space talk about really effective pivots that they've made in their strategies. So thank you so much for sharing. My friend Manish, I am so excited to have you. Thank you for being here. Would love to hear a little bit more about your approach to measuring success today at New Relic.
Yeah, sure. So I agree that product adoption is an extremely important step, but I would break down the post-sales life cycle of a product into 5 different stages here. And let me start with, let's say, after a sales is done, right, and you bring in the customer success manager. I think the first important step is deployment, right? And there might be, depending on how the product is, you might bring in a professional services in the deployment. The client might be technical enough to do it by himself, right? But the CSM needs to be hand-holding the client most of the time, making sure that that particular product is deployed in the right way, right? So that's an important step, right? The second step I would say is the enablement, where you train the customer on your product. It's a completely new product for the customer. They want to understand what are the features, what is the navigation, how would they get what they are looking for from the product. Enablement is another important step. And then comes the product adoption. So when I talk about the product adoption, it's a change for a client. It's not just a technical change. It's a mindset change. It's a process change, right? And you need to convince your user, making sure that why are we moving from that legacy product to this? What is the new thing? What is the value that it is bringing in? It's a slow process, but it's an important process. And you need to work with them. You need to discuss their use case and the details. And you need to build an expertise with the client, build a relationship with them to create a true champion out there. So that's where product adoption is and then comes the product maturity. Now, adoption is not enough. If you want to increase the usage on the product, if you want them to get the value, you need them to be matured enough on your product. Maturity is a very subjective term. Now, when you bring in the maturity, it brings in the stickiness on the product, right? And you need to measure this maturity, and it's a very difficult thing to measure. In New Relic, what we do is, because we are born in cloud, we are a SaaS-based company, we collect a lot of metadata for the client. We understand where they are moving, why they are using, which feature they are using. So all that information is collected as a data point, a metadata point for us. And when we analyze this data, we build up a maturity app to analyze that what features they are using. And it's now easy for us to just go on that app and understand why a particular team is using this feature and why it is not using. So if the product team who is investing a lot of money in bringing up the new features, we find that they're not using a specific feature, we have a talking point and we can go and discuss with them that why this is not bringing up the value for you. And the last step is the value realization. So all the other steps that we talked about happens on the practitioner level, that you interact with the customer practitioners, you train them, you do the deployment with them. But value realization comes at all the different levels, especially the executive level, where you do the top-down approach, you understand their goals, why did they buy the product, and then tie those goals to your work streams and eventually prove the value. Similarly, you work with the practitioners on the bottom-up approach to make sure that they are getting the productivity out of it. They are getting their goals achieved by using this particular product. So I would say in addition to the product adoption, all these 5 steps are extremely important for the success of a particular account or a particular product on with your client.
Oh, thank you for that all-encompassing kind of assessment of adoption at different stages in the customer lifecycle. I know that there are people in the chat. I can't see right now, but I know people are wondering if you could repeat those 5 steps. Would you do us all a favor and remind us step by step what those look like?
Yep. So I'll again repeat them. Deployment, deploying the product in the right way, enablement, product adoption, product maturity, and value realization.
All right, everybody's got it now, pen and paper. Thank you so much, Manish. Great overview. Danielle, I'm so excited to kick it over to you for our next question. So just out of curiosity, when in the customer journey do you begin measuring adoption? And a quick follow-up to that, what observations have you made that helped structure your approach to driving adoption at scale?
Yeah, well, first off, I think I'm going to need Manish to send over those top 5 as well, because I thought those were great. And coming off that question, I definitely believe that adoption isn't like a one-time thing that you check. It's something that is going to ebb and flow throughout the entire customer journey. So when a customer first joins your platform, I like to think of it as the beginning stages of dating. So everything's really exciting and new. They're eager to learn all the ins and outs, or at least you hope so. And this is what is going to be really important, that you're going to drill down into the customer. And it's really imperative that in this first 90 days that you as the CSM and your onboarding team are going to help to make sure that the customer is really onboarded correctly and they're taking advantage of hopefully the entire platform or as much as you can. And then from there, I really like to develop, I think Manish used this as well, sticky features. So what in your platform is going to make it so that your customers can't leave your platform or they can't live without your platform? And these could be maybe implementing key integrations. So they're getting all of the data pushed between all of their different types of technical stacked platforms. Maybe it's understanding and taking advantage of reporting that's available in your platform, or custom build elements, or any other key differentiators that your platform has in the marketplace. So develop these sticky features. If you don't know them already, try to think about like what's really important to your platform and why the customer would want to be on it. Then what I like to do is take these sticky features and turn them into a feature mapping type of conversation that you can use in your QBRs or regular conversations with customers in order to see how they're taking advantage of the platform. Now, they're paying for this platform. They're probably paying a large amount of money. So they want to be able to get their ROI back on it as well. So how can you then turn that into a conversation that goes both ways? That one, they're getting the benefits of the platform, and that two, you're making it so that that customer is fully sticky within the platform. They have adopted everything, and that they're really able to take the platform and do everything that they want with it, as well as not even realize what they were without it. So how can you make it valuable to both you and the customer?
Ooh, there were some gems in there. Integrations and reporting, like what a low-hanging fruit in terms of delivering those like sticky features. I loved those 2 examples. We learned very quickly at client success, like pulse, setting customer pulse. That's our sticky feature. And if my customer isn't doing that, it's an immediate red flag. So I love those 2 call outs. For anyone in the audience, can you talk more about feature mapping and how that pulls into your customer adoption strategy?
You're saying to me or the audience? Sorry.
Oh, no, that was for you, my dear. Go right ahead.
Yeah, so I think that this pulls into adoption because I think to Sam's point, she mentioned like, can you make sure that your users are actually using the platform on a regular basis? Currently at Splash, we have a platform that maybe they aren't using on a regular basis. And maybe you're a CSM to a platform that people aren't going to log into on a regular basis. But when they do need to use your platform, are they using it? And is it the first platform that they're thinking of? So I think that's why these key features are going to be really important and imperative to their adoption. So they think, hey, whenever I'm doing XYZ, I need to log into Splash and I need to make sure that I'm using it. Whereas some maybe day-to-day platforms, they're kind of just a part of their everyday schedule. And yeah, I think measuring, hey, are they logging in every day? Are they logging in every week is really imperative to their adoption as well.
Awesome. Okay. Thanks for bearing with me. Sorry for the surprise question. All right. Sam, let's turn it back over to you. I want to know about how you've applied what you've learned about your customer to scaling success at Monday.com.
Yeah. So as it applies to reaching as many customers as we can, that's primarily what we're working on our team. Really what I think of it as delivering the most value with the least amount of work as a CSM. One way we're doing that is called a program called Office Hours. So Office Hours are something we've kind of tested in the past year, officially kicking off this year. They're bi-weekly, hour-long small group Zoom sessions led by a CSM on our team, and they're they're all focused around features or use cases or just general Q&A. An easy way to connect with customers face-to-face without us reaching out to the customer one-on-one or spending that one-on-one time with them. It also provides them a time to communicate with each other, adding to that community feel, and then also adding to that stickiness of a product where they're learning from others while they're learning about the product and able to connect with one of us. So when it comes to measuring the effectiveness of these programs, we're still playing around with different ways where we can see the effectiveness of it because it's so new. We're trying to find the best path to measure that type of effectiveness, since customers can join one-off sessions, not necessarily register, or maybe they just join for 20 minutes instead of the full hour. Right now, what we're doing to measure the effectiveness is the number of attendees and then the number of signups. So that's what we're using. But so far, we've gotten really positive feedback from our customers, not just about the sessions and they are able to learn, but that they have the option to join these. So as we might not be meeting with our customers every day, they know office hours are that option to see a customer at least and get that one question answered, just adding to their confidence in the product.
I love this concept of office hours, and so excited to continue, rooting you on through the success of that initiative. I think it's such an effective way to scale one-on-one support. It's so exciting to hear that happening in your organization. I'm just wondering, before we move on, Manish, Danielle, how many accounts do you manage? I think the audience would really love to hear this. And Sam, I want to finish with you. But Manish, how many clients do you manage right now? What does your book look like?
So mine currently, I'm on strategic accounts. So it's a high touch point accounts. I speak to my clients 3 to 4 times every day. So it's a lot of work streams on a single client. So I have 3 accounts at this point of time.
Thank you. Danielle, how about you?
Yeah, so I'm also working with enterprise accounts. So I right now have a book of around 15 to 20 usually. But that being said, a lot of mine do probably have a similar structure to you, Samantha, in that there isn't always one point of contact. There could be multiple teams using it. So you might have one account, but there's 100 people. So I've been using a lot of more personalized events for accounts, and doing kind of things where it's similar to Samantha's office hours, but with customers. So they have personalized sessions that we can do trainings in, that they're more personalized towards them. And because they are an enterprise set of customers, I feel like this time is really valuable. Whereas maybe if you have 50 or 100 accounts, something that may be a lot harder to scale, but kind of picking your 1 to 2 main accounts and then really drilling in and focusing.
Mm-hmm. I love that. That's such a great way to kind of make that more personal for a smaller book, Danielle. Is that on a recurring basis, or are those one-off as requested? How does that work for scheduling?
Yeah, I like to do it where usually I'll be the one that kind of directs them. So who are my focus accounts for the quarter, or who do I see the most growth opportunity in? Okay, I'm going to drill in, focus in on these. And then as you kind of run them after a while, so I really like to do low-level trainings. So how can everyone in the platform learn how to use it better and take advantage of all the sticky features or different levers? And I'll do that. And then as you start to do them, it becomes just common sense to you. I could run a lot more. So you could probably take on a lot more, but I usually like to just choose a few accounts per quarter or
I love that.
half year.
Oh, I'm taking it. That's a great idea. Samantha, talk to us about your book. How many clients fit into your segment?
Yeah, each CSM on our team usually manage around 200 to 300. But Danielle, similar to you, we use data to determine what accounts we should be spending more time with. So not every account will get that same amount of time per quarter, but we like to determine, okay, where is our time best spent? Which accounts do we need to prioritize? So we use something like the usage metrics, but something like office hours is something for all of our accounts across all CSM's books.
Awesome. Yeah, really great to know. And such a great representation of different types of CS management. Yeah, I love that. Thank you for being here, you guys. This is so great. Manish, I'm going to turn it back over to you. I'm dying to ask this next question. So folks might say that if your customers are not using your solution regularly, they're not getting value from it. So I don't know. I'm curious. Do you think that adoption is that black and white?
So I heard a couple of words like, let's first define the value, right? What does value mean to a client? Right? Why did they buy us in the first place? What are their short-term? What are their long-term goals? Once we understand that point, then let's go on usage. How do we define the usage? Like, it depends on the product. Like, it could be a UI-based product where there are users who go on the product every day, and then you can count the number of users on the product, and it's easy to find what is the usage. It could be a process-based. Let's say there is a product which is just integrating two different products and passing on a data from one product to another. So that's a different kind of usage. Or it could be a assurance kind of a product where alerts are being fired if something goes wrong. And if nothing goes wrong in a month, that means there was no usage in a month. Like, I mean, there's a different way to find those the usage. Now, having said that, when the SaaS world is moving from a subscription model where you have a subscription for the year, for the month, for your users, to a consumption pricing, where a lot of companies are now moving, saying you pay what you consume. Although you have a commitment, you have a committed amount you can get off the product, but you are paying based on the consumption. Usage is extremely important. And as I said, it's not that black and white. It's that post-sales 5 steps process that we talked about, right? Those all steps contribute to eventually leading to a usage that you are looking for in a client and eventually getting the value out of it.
Yeah, it's a great call out. You're right. Some of my customers, their solution sends alerts when things go wrong. So usage is a tough thing to track for sure. Very, very interesting. Thank you so much. Sam, can I turn it over to you for a little bit of context? What do you think?
Yeah, so I think this has a lot to do with the stickiness of the product, and something that we've all touched on today. So we can tell it's super important in the customer success manager's mindset. So if the product is embedded in their everyday workflow or routine as a customer, so if you take that out of their tech stack, are they still able to do their job? So I see adoption as being able to fluctuate. So it's a CSM's job to give the champion the tools to adapt the product to their own needs as their business changes. So we use the train the trainer methodology to provide our champions with the knowledge and tools so they can rely more internally with maintaining the product. Something that we do to support this is product-led support or dog fooding to make sure our customers are learning to use the platform as part of their everyday workflow. So Monday is a Work OS tool, so that means it's meant to be embedded with their other platforms that they use every day. So some big strategies on our team that are making sure that we log initial meeting notes in the customer's instance of Monday. We're always using Monday to communicate with them within the platform, and we're creating Monday boards to track their onboarding progress, or maybe just specific meetings after onboarding too. So by working with this champion, we want to make sure they understand how the product can be a part of their everyday workflow. And we're seeing that trickle down to other end users.
Awesome context. Danielle, I do not mean to put you on the spot again, but I'm dying to hear from you. Do you dog food at Splash?
I've never heard of dog food. What it is. When she said that, I was like, did she mess up?
Okay, so for anyone in the audience, it's terrible, you guys. Dog fooding is essentially when you use your own solution, similar to how I use client success to manage my book of business. That's what dog fooding is. But I think Christy actually coined, we sip our own champagne. Sounds a lot better. We sip our own champagne. But do you sip your own champagne?
I do, actually. So for those of you who don't know what Splash is, it's an event marketing platform. And so, like I said previously, I like to take some of my key customers and I'll run events specifically for them. So I actually use our platform to create the events, send the events, and then we also stream our events off of those platforms as well. So yeah, it's amazing because then you get to show them exactly how you can do it.
Yeah, practice what you preach, right? That's awesome. Very good. All right. So, and my next question is actually for you as well, Danielle. So please stay off mute. With a subscription-based solution, our executive sponsors generally want to understand the value realization and the usage of the tool. Many products have reports baked in that inform the ES, how they're doing, how their team is performing or adopting the tool. I'm curious, how would you navigate a conversation with a client whose adoption is low?
Yeah. So in the CS world, I feel like we'd always love to have customers that are high adoption, but it's obviously not always the case. So this is probably a more common conversation for a lot of the CS folks in the room that you end up having at least once in your career. But yeah, I think it's really important to kind of always be prepared for these types of conversations and always be ahead of them as well. So being sure that you are checking either on a weekly or monthly basis your own reporting on your customers, specifically customers that maybe you've seen have lower adoption in the past. So you can always be prepared and ready for these conversations. And then what I like to do is kind of going back to like elementary school when you learned how to write paragraphs. I love to sandwich them into like the hamburger method. So I'll do like a really good positive, I'll bring in that negative statement, and then I'll finish off with a positive or a next step process. So this way it eases the conversation. And I like to say that a lot of the CS role is you kind of are just talking to your customer, you're creating a relationship with them. So how can you take this maybe disturbing news and turn it into a positive and maybe turn it into an experience of, we need to get you more training. Like you guys signed up for this product for a reason. You really wanted to make XYZ happen. And that's why you decided to purchase us from the beginning. Like go back to those beginning points that hopefully your sales team took, and you can use those to leverage this conversation and turn it into a moment where you can now learn from and then actually move forward. And I honestly think that sometimes these conversations, they bring light to a customer that maybe hasn't been getting that great of attention in the past. And then you honestly usually have the best conversations with them. A relationship gets 1,000 times better because you had these really hard conversations with them. I don't know who else felt that in this Zoom.
I've certainly been there, but I don't want to take away from our amazing experts in the panel. Manish, does this resonate with you? Have you been in a situation where maybe a suboptimal usage scenario really turns into a super positive one?
Yeah, so yeah, it happens a lot of times when we interact with the client. Again, as Daniel was saying, that sandwich the bad news between the two different.
Love that.
Right, and that's a perfect strategy that anyone would apply on that. So yeah, it happens a lot of times when we have to break in, but we have to come up with the solutions along with that. We have to suggest some measures that you will take so that adoption can improve. And this is we have to provide the basis why we are saying that there's a low adoption, and again propose a plan that how we should go ahead next with that.
I love that. Yeah, very good. Thank you so much, you guys. I'm going to move into our next question. I want to save a little bit of time for audience questions. So if you're in the audience and you have something to ask, something burning in your mind for these amazing experts and product adoption, please, your time is now. We got a few more questions before we move over to the audience, but my next one is around strategies. So Sam, I want to direct this next question at you. What strategies do you use to increase adoption at scale?
Yeah, so right now we're really focused on those programs. So like I was mentioning before, office hours to use to target the majority of our accounts. We also provide those office hours for every CSM on our team to use in as Arsenal. So like if they have a customer that could benefit from attending one of those feature sessions and they don't want to use their one-on-one dedicated time, they're going to promote those office hours to their own book of business. So it's not meant to be just per CSM. They're meant to be used by every CSM on our team. We also use email campaigns. So we're using those in coordination with office hours. So campaigns that we're creating are meant to be from the CSM mindset. So workflows or best practices, things to get them thinking or curious about what else they could do on the platform. They're not meant to be purchasing more of the product or anything or more seats, but that is the main goal. And they're not similar to marketing newsletters where those are more sales focused. They are written from that CSM point of view, so they're more product usage approach than sales approach. So we're using the campaigns to promote office hours to allow the customers to have that other touch point with a CSM. So we're going to email them and then allow them to meet with a CSM through office hours, and it's not just a dead end. And here's a new use case. Here's a new best practice. Now Now try it on your own. They actually can talk to a CSM after we send that email.
I love that. I love that. We love options, right? That's a really smart choice. What does the cadence look like? I'm curious of the kind of email campaigns you're referring to. When do they start? How often do you send them?
Right now we're sending them monthly. So that's fairly new too. So we're looking into some of the performance of those. We might increase that or have them be trigger based. We're exploring that option too. So sending a campaign, let's say if they're decreasing their usage of a specific feature, sending them something based around that one feature. So we're playing with that idea as well.
Ooh, love it. Love it. Well, keep us posted. This sounds very exciting. Manish, I want to turn to you next. In previous conversations that you and I have had, you've shared your experience building COEs. Could you tell us what a COE is and what it does? Why should a business invest in one?
Sure, yeah, great question. And you would see a lot of big accounts will have this question, whether we should set up a COE, what would be the right way. There's no right or wrong way of doing a COE, but it's a very highly effective tool that one can use on the large strategic accounts. So number one, COE is not meant for every account. Imagine that there is an account with around 20 to 25 users. You won't build a COE for that because you can interact with all the users and it's easy, right? And the reason that we build COE, there are multiple reasons. Number one is the account team that works with the client is limited, right? We can have 3, 4, 5 people on the account team, and they can be huge number of users. One of my clients is like 3,000 users. So how do we interact with these users? So what we do is we pick up POCs from each of the groups, because on these large clients, there are multiple groups that we work with. So we pick up point of contacts from each of these groups and then try to train them, try to work with them, try to understand their use case, and eventually build a champion out of them, right? And then overall get this particular group together to move our strategy with the client. Now, they can act as a first line of support for us, because anytime there's an issue, you don't need to raise a support ticket. You can just reach out to your point of contact and understand this is how they are planning. Now, they can also help us with strategic planning, that where the client is moving in terms of their strategy and how do we align with them. We become a partner for them, right? They can help us with some trainings, right? Train the trainer, as Sam said. So they can help us with some trainings. They can help us in beta testing for the product. If we are releasing a new product, we want someone to have a first look at it. They can help us with that. They can help us with some deployment. They can help us with promoting and expansion of the product within the client. So they are a great partners to have once we create those champions as a part of a group called COE or Center of Excellence.
Amazing. Yeah. Thank you so much for, I think that brings such interesting perspective. And, you know, I maybe in my book can do something like a pilot group within an org. So I think that really at scale describes kind of what you're able to do for customers. I do want to wrap up with our last question before we turn to the audience. You guys, this has been outstanding, but to tie up our conversation and before we turn to audience QA, what are some of the most common mistakes that you've made when trying to drive adoption at scale? What have you learned that our audience can benefit from? I don't know, Manish, maybe you can kick us off.
Sure. Yeah, I would call them as a lessons learned while working with these clients. Sometimes it's like you wait for it and you don't do a mistake, but it's a lesson learned while you are working on this client. So I think the first one, I have three of them. The first one would be talk value. At any level on the client, you can talk value. Talk of the return of investment that it brings it, the product is bringing in. You should be able to understand the leadership goals when they buy the product so that you can talk more ROI. Second is don't get complacent, right? If you have a very good engagement with one team, don't just stop there. Keep generating more and more activities so that it generates more and more opportunities and more work streams for you within multiple groups on these large clients. So having more activities will result in more success on the client. And the last thing is work like a partner for them and not a vendor. They are not looking for a vendor. They are looking for partners in their strategy. So be one of them.
Oh, that fires me up. That was great advice. Thank you for sharing. Danielle, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, similar to Manish's, I definitely think working as a partner is key. I think sometimes we are thinking of our own internal goals or what we want out of our customers, and always having in the back of your mind that we're all people and we're here to foster a relationship with our customer and we are the face of our platform is something that you should always come back to in the end. Like knowing about your customers, maybe knowing their dog's name or that they got married recently. Those are things that are going to make you unforgettable for your customer and are going to make a large difference in the end. And then another thing that I think is really important is that no customer is one adoption method is not a one size fits all. So tailor it different ways. Try different tactics that we talked about today. See what works with your customers. Maybe it works with one, but it doesn't work with another. And don't ever stop testing out different methods and trying different solutions.
Ooh, all such good advice. All right, Sam, let's wrap up, and then we'll move to some some audience questions. What are some of your learns or lessons learned?
Yeah, I think those are all amazing ideas, and mine are most of those too. So I'll just go with one that I think is the most important, and that's definitely using data to approach every day, understanding where your time is best fit just based on account metrics, product usage, because that will determine how you best spend your time throughout the day and what customers you engage with.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody. This has been super insightful. If you'd agree, we do have some pretty exciting questions from our audience that I would love to hear your answers to. So it's like first come, first serve. Just I want to hear from all of you or whoever's got some great learns to share. But this question comes from Ash. Thank you so much, Ash. Ash says, we always talk about product adoption or tracking as one of the points to track customer health. What about organizations with on-premise products undergoing transition to hosted or a SaaS model? What's the safest bet to track adoption?
I can go with it. See, it's a little challenge, definitely, but it's not impossible, because when you are in SaaS and when you're in cloud, you collect customers' data, so it's easy to see what's going on, right? But with the on-premise products, what you basically would do is the relationship comes into picture, because in that case, when you have your champions, when you are interacting with them, and it takes a little longer than what it would take for a SaaS-based product to be on, right? And then when you have that relationship, you try to understand what are the use cases, and you try to take how many people are using it, how they are trained, and all those things from that. So it requires a lot of relationship-related stuff to get that information from your champions, rather than getting from the data that we are collecting from the product.
Yeah, I love that. I would add on to that as well, just focus on outcomes. You know, what is the customer trying to achieve with your solution? Like that has been always really helpful in helping me track, you know, my end customers' success is just, you know, are they able to get their work done? I don't know. Anybody else? That was a tough question. Anyone else have anything to add?
Yeah, I'll add. So I think I always worked probably in a SaaS platform. So just thinking about though pre-pandemic and craziness, one of the most important things that we did on our team was always going out and meeting our customers in person and having those real life relationships, whether that be grabbing coffee and just chatting with them, doing something on site like a training. But I think those are really important, and that relationship is really important. And then I think in our marketplace, there are probably 1,000 different platforms and technologies that do probably something very similar to what your company does today. So how can you really find the differentiators and teach those to your customer so that they don't have that wandering eye seeing what else is out there, and they really do trust and keep your relationship top of mind when maybe other fish start biting in their inboxes to come use their technologies.
For sure. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to move to our next question from Nader. In your view, what are 3 attributes that make up a solid health score?
Yeah, I can go ahead and take this one.
Ahead.
So definitely usage. So how often are you in the tool? How many actions are you taking within that tool daily? So that's definitely one. We also measure capacity. So out of all the licenses that they have available to them, are they only using half? Are they using only a quarter? That's determining less or lower health. We want to see them really optimizing on the entire or all the licenses that they have available to them. So whereas that might not be an indicator to a full account churning, they might be reducing some of their seats. So that could be a strategy from a CSM, is to make sure that those extra seats, that they are being used by some team within the organization. And then I would say just are they happy with using the tool? So what's their overall sentiment? What's their CSAT, NPS scores? So are they enjoying using what they have access to? Are they seeing the value, or are they just using it because it's available to them?
Love that. Those are great. Danielle, Manish, do you have three solid health score components that you'd like to call out?
So I'll add what we do. Again, because we are consumption based, one of the important parameters is how hot or cold account is running. Like if they plan for, let's say, 100,000 a month, right? Are they running at that usage or not? And then the second important thing that we follow is the maturity. How mature they are, how proactive they are, how much are they using, what features they are using. Based on that, we give them a maturity score, right? And then that can be given based on the groups as well, based on the sub accounts as well. So we can easily across all the whole account, we can see what groups are using us, what features are being used, and then that's how we try to derive an overall health score for a client.
Awesome. Danielle, anything to add? Go ahead.
I'll add one on top of those. I think probably another metric that I like to view is customer engagement. So are they attending webinars or opening your emails? Are they reaching out to you or answering your emails or marketing emails? Are they attending your sessions, or are they just blowing you off? Those are kind of things that you can kind of see the heat of your customer as well.
Got it. Yeah, those are all really, really valuable contributions. My clock says we have one more minute, but I think my schedule says we have 5. So I'm taking the 5 minutes, y'all. Just yell at me if I'm wrong, everybody. But I do want to ask this. So the product that Dev supports is very complex. Do you have any technical specialists that support you for more technical discussions with your customers?
So at New Relic, we follow a pod model where we have an AE and SE who do the pre-sales stuff. And in the post-sales, we have a CSM and the technical account manager. So that's the part structure that we follow on all the accounts, all the at least big accounts. So yeah, technical help is always there with us. In addition, we have support, we have product experts we can bring in, and some other solution architects which we can bring in based on what's the conversation.
Got it. Yeah. So more of like a dedicated account team where you may be the primary point of contact, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Any other contacts? Anybody who might work with a more technical product?
Yeah. So we have an internal team. So we don't have a dedicated technical support team per account, but the CSM, we do have a process where we can escalate it if we see that it does need further technical support. So we have that internal process where we're able to pass the account along to somebody that is a little more technical. And then we're still that main point of contact to the customer where we can communicate that back.
Very smart. Yeah. Thank you. It's valuable for everybody in the audience. So I've got one more for the group and then a few follow-up questions about office hours. So Sam, I think we're going to give you the spotlight here in a second. But before we do that, Gary wants to know, how do you deal with adoption problems that result from a poorly qualified customer? Oof.
I can jump in there. Those are always the most upsetting, I feel like, because you know that you could try really hard, but I think sometimes it is important to think of your customer, and if they don't really need your platform, or it isn't something that is truly going to be the best solution for them, I mean, you can try to renew them again, but in the end, they are probably going to churn because they, one, didn't need it or don't see the value in it. So sometimes I think it's important to also be looking out for your customers and know when they are the right or wrong fit. And then taking that as a learning experience, you can talk to your sales or BDR teams and say, hey, when we're vetting this out in the future, let's look for these items so you can actually change the process so that your company doesn't deal with this in the future.
Love that. Yes. Manish, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I would just say that if you're able to identify them earlier, it's good, because if it is to fail, it is to fail early, or there might be enough time for us to change something to make them success. So identifying these clients early in the game would change things for us.
Yeah. I would add 2 things here too. What does work? If there is a part of the solution that does specifically work for their business, focusing on that and then providing enablement around that one, feature that is sticky. The other thing that I would recommend, measure. If you can aggregate some data around, these are customers. This is the time that we attributed as a team, as a business to a poor fit, like that's information that benefits an entire team. So find a way to measure those things. No team is perfect. We all, wind up in those kinds of situations at times, but where we can impact and where we can impact change is if we have a function to measure those kinds of that kind of work. So those would be my two ads. Sam, anything else? Because if not, I've got lots of questions for you from the audience.
They got all my ideas. So
okay, cool. Yeah, no worries. So a few questions. Let me see if I can draw these all together in a concise way. Andrew wants to know if your office hours are open to all customers, or do you have office hours for specific accounts? Let's start with that one.
Yeah, so it's just the accounts that we deem as scale. So it's not Monday's largest enterprise or mid-market accounts that have that dedicated support. It's also not the smallest of accounts that have no access to support, that are just digital support only. So it's the ones that we're communicating that the availability of office hours to them. So they're being handled by a CSM on our scale team that knows that they're a scale size account.
Amazing. Okay. And then last but not least, let's talk tech. What platform do you use for this kind of customer engagement?
So we use an internal method. So I can't remember exactly what method, but we do have an email marketing team that's able to send these for us. So we design them in Figma, and then we send them out through our email marketing team. And then all office hours are hosted on Zoom. So we've created a process to invite them. And then Danielle, I've actually looked into Splash that to create some type of a landing page to invite users to make that process a little more inviting for them. So we might be talking after this.
Yeah. Well, I'll let you two talk offline more about that. That does bring us to time, you guys. It has been such an honor to be here with you all. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and all this super valuable information. I know I certainly took plenty away, and I'm sure our audience did as well. So thank you for joining us this afternoon. It's been a total pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.